Hey guys, Scott from scottsweb.dev here. Today we're going to do a bit of a longer video. I'm going to show you how to create a user registration system in PHP. The first place a user goes to sign up to your site is the registration page. This is the entry into your system. So it's the first point that we want to cover. There are going to be follow-up videos about a login, logout system, an auto login system, an emailing a verification link system, um, lots more systems like setting and forgetting passwords, all of that. But we have to start with user registration. And that's what we're going to do here. And we're not using WordPress or any other CMS. We're doing this from scratch, completely custom. So yeah, let's get started. I've went ahead and set up a test site, and it's very, very simple. I just have a layout with 3 nav links up here and a container. The 3 pages are home, sign up, log in. What that looks like in my code editor is I have a header and a footer, and then index, login, sign up. The index, login, and sign up just include the header, then their unique content, and then the footer. The header just includes the database file, which is our database connection. We're using MySQL with PHP. And the settings file is just for settings. I don't really have any in there right now, just one for site name, but I wanted to have it there just in case. And then we have a CSS file, which this is all the styling I've done for the setup of this website. Your website will look better. This is just for example purposes, and it will work well for that. But yeah, let's get started. The first thing we'll want is when we go to our sign up page, we'll want to be presented with a form to fill out information. And we need to capture that information, so we also need to set up our database. And that's where we'll get started at today. I have created a new database just for this site, and I have opened PHPMyAdmin here to this database. We're going to create a new table called users. We're going to give it 10 columns. I'm not sure if we'll need 10. I don't think we will, but just in case. We'll want an ID, and we'll give it a value of 8. This will hold 100 million people, so this is plenty. We will make this auto increment primary key. That way, every time a user gets inserted, they will have a new ID and it will keep incrementing by 1. Then we want to capture an email address. That will be varchar255, and it will be unique. We're going to give it a unique index and call it email. Then we want first name. We'll give that varchar100, and last name, we'll give that varchar100. Then we need a password field. Now we will be using password hash with PHP, which uses bcrypt algorithm and stores around 60 or so characters. However, in the future, that algorithm may change, so we do want to future-proof here and allow it more space in the future in case it needs it. So we'll set this to varchar255. And then we want a time joined. This is going to be a timestamp, and the default is going to be the current timestamp. And we want a last active. This last active field, when a user logs in and views a page, we will update it. So you can tell when all of your users were last active. You can even create a last online stat from that, or a number of members online right now stat from that. So we'll have that as well. That will also be a timestamp, but it will be null. And I can't think of anything else we need right now. This will allow us to store data from our user sign up form. So we'll go ahead and hit save. Cool. We have our fields here. Let's get started on building the form. So we will go to our sign up page. We'll make this an H1. It says sign up, and then we'll have a paragraph. Sign up for this site by filling out the form below. Then we'll have a form. We're just going to post this form to itself. I'm really not a big fan of doing that, but I do it on the sign up pages because there's so many errors that could happen here. I usually like to use a post redirect get pattern, but there's a lot of error checking, and doing it this way works just fine for the sign up. So we'll have form action equals signup.php, method equals post. We'll have a hidden input here, so we know that we are posting this form. So name equals action, value equals do sign up. Then we'll make our fields. We need fields for first name, last name, email, password, and password confirm. So I'm just going to do a very simple layout here with paragraphs. We'll do first name, input type equals text, name equals first name, value equals empty, placeholder equals first name. That looks good. We'll do that again for last name. I'm also going to add some autocomplete fields here to turn it off just for this example, because it will show all my personal information. So I'll just set an autocomplete to a completely random string. You don't have to do this for your site. You might want autocomplete here. Okay, then we'll have email. This should be input type equals email, autocomplete, name equals email, value equals placeholder equals you@email.com. That looks good. Then we'll have our password. And we'll put some rules here. We'll put your password must be 6 characters in length, have 1 letter, 1 number. Let's see, have 1 uppercase letter, 1 lowercase letter, 1 number, and 1 special character. We do that because passwords are the weak point of any system. If a user has a very weak password like ABCD, it's going to be very easy for bad guys to get into your system and do potentially bad things. So we want to force users to have a somewhat secure password. And we do that by setting requirements on the passwords. And I'll show you how to validate that here in just a minute. So we'll do input type equals password, name equals password. If that's all we need. And then we'll do confirm password just to make sure they didn't type in the wrong thing the first time. Input type equals password, name equals confirm, or we'll call it password confirm. That looks good. Then we need a submit button. We'll do input type equals submit, value equals submit, and then we have our end form. So let's go ahead and view this, see what it looks like. Okay, so it looks good. We have place for the first name, place for the last name, place for email. It looks like my autocomplete didn't work, but that's okay. Place for password and confirm password. So we're ready to go. We can now fill out this data, check for errors, and that's one of 3 points we really want to hit on here. The first is the form that we just did. The second is validating in PHP, and the third is validating in JavaScript. Some people do JavaScript only validation, which is really bad because people can just turn off JavaScript and then submit anything they want to your form. So we do need server-side validation to make sure that the data is what we expect it to be. And that's a basic security rule, is you want to validate data as much as you can before you save it to your database. So let's go ahead and get started on processing this form. The first thing I want to do up here is to set a control variable for whether the form was successfully validated. So we'll put signup success equals false. Here we'll put if no signup success, show this form. So this will load on page load, and if there's an invalid form submission, we will show this form again. Okay, so that's good. So now we want to actually process the form data, and we'll do that right here. We'll say if not empty, post action, and post action equals do sign up process form. You'll notice we have this input type equals hidden, name equals action, value equals do sign up. When this form gets submitted, this data gets sent with it, and this page refreshes. It then goes through the script, and right here we check if that post data is present. If it is, we know that the form has been submitted and we now need to process it. I'm going to add some comments in here. Let's see. Here we'll put if form was posted, process the data. And here we'll put if form was not filled out or there was an error, we'll show the form. The first thing we'll need to do to validate the form is to create an empty array for errors. This is where we'll store our error messages. So we'll put store error messages. Errors equals an empty array. Then all of these fields are required, so we need to check if their values were even filled out. So we'll do if empty trim post first name errors equals please fill out your first name. And we'll need to do that for all of the fields. So I'll just copy paste here and change the data. So now we need to check for last name. You may notice the trim function here, and that's because like if they enter spaces, it will show as characters, but there's really no data here. So trim will trim off the empty spaces from the beginning and end of the data. So if empty first name, if empty last name, please fill out your last name. Empty email, please fill out your email. If empty password, please fill out your password. If empty password confirm, please confirm your password. All right, so we'll add a comment here, check for required fields. And then we can show error messages down here. So if there's no sign up success, we'll check if errors is empty or not empty. If not empty, errors. This is where we'll show our error message. Div class equals errors. UL HP for each errors as error. Show the error message. All right, so that looks good. So now all we're doing is checking that they are filled out. So let's save this. Let's revisit our page and submit an empty form here. Oops, undefined variable sign up success. Let's go back and fix that. Sign up success is false. No sign up. Oh, I forgot a C in there. It's just a typo. So we'll go back here. All right, so this form is completely empty. Let's submit it. And now we see our error messages here. It says, please fill out these fields. So that's good. Now we want to keep processing and validating data. And we could do that by assigning variables to the data. So here in our validation function, we'll say if not empty errors. We can assign our post data to variables. So we'll do first name equals post first name, last name equals post last name, email equals post email, password equals post password, password confirm equals post password confirm. We'll want to go ahead and make this pretty looking. The better your code looks and the more you comment it, the more you'll want to come back to it in the future and just generally know what's going on. So I do recommend commenting and formatting your code. So we'll add a comment here. If there's no errors so far, assign variables to data. And now we can begin validating the data of these variables. If you'll remember, we set a max length of 100 characters on the first name and last name fields and 255 characters on the email fields. We do want to make sure our data is not longer than that. Otherwise, we'll get an SQL error. So what we'll do is we'll use substring to make sure that it's at max 100 characters. So we'll do first name equals substring first name 0 100, last name equals substring last name 0 100, and email equals substring email 0 255. It's very uncommon that anybody will try to enter data longer than this, but you do want to cover your bases. You don't want to have an SQL error here. So this is part of validating your data and making sure that it's what you expect it to be. So let's add a comment here. We'll say make sure data is of right length. I'm not concerned about people entering one character for first name and last name. We do want to validate the email. We want to hash the password, and we want to check if the email already exists. So the first thing we'll do is check if the email already exists. And we should do that using prepared statements in MySQL. Very easy to do. It's been a while since I've done it, so if I have a few hiccups here, you'll have to forgive me. So what we'll want to do is to create a statement, stmt equals db.prepare, and then our SQL. So we'll select email from users where email equal to that. 1 to 1. We limit 1 because if we find 1, we don't need to keep continuing to search the entire database. We found 1 too many, so we can return. Now we want to bind parameters here. With bind param, it's a string, and we'll do email. Then we'll do .execute, stmt execute the prepared statement, and then store the result. Then we can check if there's any rows. So if it's num rows, we know that there's a duplicate email. We'll put that in our errors. This email is already in our system. Please use forgot password or use a different email address. So that checks that the username doesn't already exist. Right now we don't have any username, so that function will always return no. It will pass that, but we'll check if there's no more errors again. Empty errors. We can continue validating the data. The next thing we want to validate is the email. So we will do filter var here. No filter var email. Filter validate email. Errors equals your email address appears to be invalid. And then we'll check it for empty errors again. Let's add some comments. Check if errors is empty. Validate email address. And really we use input type equals email on the front end. That's not impermeable. People can get around it, but it does help format the email address. And that's all we're checking here is the formatting of the email address. So now we want to validate the password inside of here. So we'll create a function for this up here. We'll call it validate password. And the password will get passed in as a parameter to the function. If you remember our rules from before, we want the password to be at least 6 characters in length, have 1 uppercase letter, 1 lowercase letter, 1 number, and 1 special character. So we're going to check all of that in our password validating function. So the first thing we need is to check the string length of the password. So we'll do if password less than 6, return false. Then we want to check if it has a lowercase letter. So we'll do if no preg match. We'll comment this. Now we must have 1 uppercase letter. And these are using regular expressions, which just checks text patterns to make sure it matches your rules. So this is uppercase letters. Now we want to make sure it has 1 digit or number. So we'll do no preg match. Return false. Now we want to check for a special character. Let's go ahead and comment that there as well. We'll change that to must have 1 special character. I'm not the best at regex, so you'll have to excuse me if I get some errors here too. So we'll want to make sure it doesn't contain A through Z, or a digit. Otherwise, we're good and we can return true. So we've created this function that we can use to validate the posted password. We will go ahead and do that here where it says validate password. I think first we should probably check if the password and password confirm are equal. So we'll do if password not equal to password confirm. errors equals your passwords do not match, else let's make sure that they can be validated, or it meets the requirements. If no, validate password errors equals your password must contain at least 6 characters, 1 lowercase letter, 1 uppercase letter, 1 number, and 1 special character. Else, everything is good. So they've passed all of these checks. We want to insert their data into the database and set the sign up success variable to true so that the form doesn't show again, and then we want to display a success message. So display success message, set sign up control variable to true. So you may have noticed I haven't hashed the password yet. We need to do that here too. So we'll create a variable called password hashed, and we'll set it equal to password hash password default. So what this does is it uses the default encrypting algorithm in PHP to hash this password. Right now, that algorithm is bcrypt. It's very secure. You may have also noticed that we didn't use a site salt or a per user salt, and that's because password hash will include a unique salt for every password, and that salt gets stored in the hash, so there's no need to store it separately. Password hash will take care of all of that for us, so I highly recommend using password hash for your password hashing. If you get into salts and peppers and stuff, just make sure you do it really carefully because you can introduce vulnerabilities there that didn't exist before. Like one time a few years ago, I thought I was being super cool and I would have super but good security and a super long salt and a really long pepper and a really long user specific salt. And I got to doing that and I found out that every password I entered was working and I couldn't figure out why. Like I would enter ABC and my password would work, and I couldn't find any errors with my code. And it turned out that bcrypt has like a limit of like 60 hash characters or something. And with my long salts and long peppers and long user specific salts, those first 60 or 70 characters were actually the same no matter what your password was. So every password works. So I actually don't recommend using salts or peppers unless you're very careful in your implementation and you don't introduce any vulnerabilities there. For most cases, unless you're doing, like bank level or super secret stuff, you need password hash will work just fine. So here we have hashed the password. This is what we will insert into the database for the password. You never want to store passwords in plain text. In fact, there have been lawsuits about this where companies have gotten a lot of trouble. I don't think there's any criminal charges, but there's definitely civil penalties where they've had to pay out class action lawsuits. So you don't want to be caught in anything like that. Just store your passwords hashed. It's very easy to do, and I'll show you how to check them when we create the login system. So let's go ahead and insert the data now that we've hashed this password. We're going to want to create our SQL query. Equals db.prepare insert into users. ID will be taken care of for us, so we just need email, first name, last name, password, and we're going to use a prepared statement here for security. You could just use a real escape string, but again, using prepared statements is more secure even than that. So we'll go values. All right, we'll do values and then a question mark for each parameter. So that looks good. Now we'll need to bind the parameters. Let's see. And we can bind them all at once here. They can all be strings. We have 4, so 4 strings. We will bind email, first name, last name, and password. Then we'll do execute. We don't need to store the result. We need to display a success message. So div class equals success, paragraph, thanks for signing up. You can now log in. Now in a future video, I will show how to do email verifications where we send an email here where they have to click on a link in their email and verify their email address before they're allowed to log in. That's pretty standard practice, but I felt like I could put that into a separate video just to get the user registration out of the way. Now we'll want to set our signup control variable to true so that the form doesn't show. Signup success equals true, and that should be good. Let's go ahead and test out our form, make sure our validations work, make sure entering data works. So we'll go here. First, we'll not fill out any fields. Execute on bool, line 94. Looks like I got an error here. Just a second. Bind param, execute, store results. Let's see, what am I missing here? What was the error message again? On bool. Oh, I don't need to assign that to that. That just needs to be bind param. Make sure I didn't do that here too. Yeah. Sorry about that. It's been a while since I've used that. Okay, so we didn't fill in any data. It says please fill out your first and last name. I'll just put junk data here. For email, it's going to force us to have a good email format, so we can't really test sending that bad. So I'll just put a@b.com. Password, we'll put in one password, one empty password. It says please confirm your password. Did that. Oh, you know what? This reminds me, we need to pre-fill our form in case that a user submits bad data. I should have done that earlier. But if our form is being shown again and there's errors, we really need to populate that data so that they don't have to type it in again. And we could do that here where it says value. So we'll just put PHP, if not empty, post first name, echo HTML entities, post first name, and quotes. What that does, if they put in any special characters, it will just encode them there so that they can't put in any special characters. It's just a way to display data to your users inside of an input field. You could also use HTML special chars. So we'll do that for first name. We'll do that for last name. We'll do it for email. And we'll even want to do it for password and password confirm too. Okay, we'll go back, we'll refresh our page here, see if it pre-populates our information. I need to submit it first. So we'll do this, a@b.com, submit. And there you go. It has our info pre-populated, so we can correct these errors. My passwords do not match here. It didn't tell me my passwords didn't match, so let's go find out why. Password not equal to password confirm. It should tell me that my passwords aren't equal. Please fill out your password. It does not. That's so weird. Okay, so check if errors is empty. Let's just echo some debugging information here. So we'll just say we're here. We'll see what's running. Here 3. Probably not the best way to do it, but it works. Go ahead and resubmit this. Errors. Let's see here. Echo here 5. It's not even reaching that point. Oh, I have a not empty. That should be empty. Oh my gosh. Such a juvenile mistake here. And I'm actually kind of glad that happened. That will happen a lot. You'll just find stuff that you're banging your head over, and it's really something simple. That happens even the best of us. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and it just happened to me here. So now you can see that I changed that. I have your passwords do not match. So we triggered that error. Let's go ahead and fill this out correctly. So we get the insertion message and we have our sign up complete. So we'll put Scott, and then I'll put last name. Email's fine. Let's put out a valid email or a valid password here. Now I triggered the validation. It inserted my user record. It said, thanks for signing up. We do not see the form anymore. Let's check PHPMyAdmin. MyAdmin, we'll go to browse. You'll see that we have our record entered here. It's what we entered in the form. So we have our ID, the email, first name, last name. The password is hashed. There's no way you can tell what this is just by looking at it. You have your time joined, which is a timestamp. It was set to the time when I clicked that sign up button. And our last active is null because we have not logged in yet. So that's it on the PHP side and the PHP validation. The only thing we have to do now is to do the JavaScript validation. So we'll go back to our sign up form. I did want to show you that if we hit refresh, or if I try to enter this again with the same email address, it will tell me that there's already someone with that email address. See, so this email is already in our system. So people, if they get that success message and they refresh the page, they will not be allowed to sign up again. It will just show them that, hey, this email is already in here. Maybe you already have an account, use our lost password functionality, or sign up using a different email address. So that's a really necessary functionality to have in your sign up validation, is to make sure that the email or username is not already in the system. So let's go back here, and we're going to want to validate this using JavaScript. And that's so users can see at a glance what's wrong, correct their errors before it even hits the server. We can do that by applying an error class to the field. So let's go ahead in our CSS we'll create a class of input error. We'll give it a border of solid 1px red. Save. So now we'll go to sign up, and we need to put a script in here that checks for when this form is submitted. I'm going to house it in assets.js. So we'll go ahead and create a new file here, and we'll save as assets.js signup validate.js. Okay, we did that. And what I did for simplicity is I went back through my form and I gave all IDs, I gave IDs to all the fields. This makes it easier in JavaScript to access those. You could use query selector or go by name or input type, but just for ease of use for this tutorial, I gave all of the fields IDs. I gave them the same as their field name. So we have signupvalidate.js. Now we'll need to include this script on the page. Assets.js signupvalidate.js. And that's it. Let's go ahead and console.log here just to make sure that this is running. So we'll go back to our page here. We'll refresh. In console, we get our message, so we see that it's running. So now what we want is to run this script when the DOM content is loaded. So we'll do document add event listener DOM content loaded function. And I am using jQuery here. It just makes things easier, but you could also do that, do this with vanilla JavaScript. I feel like I just write jQuery faster. So first we'll identify the form element. Let form equals my form. I gave the form an ID of sign up form. We'll change that to sign up form. If form.length. So what we'll want to do now is to add an event listener to the form for submission. So we'll do form.on submit function. This will create a function that runs when the form is submitted. We'll want to do e.preventDefault here. And then we'll check all of our required fields. So we'll do if jQuery first name.val.trim equal to nothing. We'll add an error class to it. First name.add class input error. I've added that in my CSS here. I just made a class with input error with a border of 1 pixel red. Otherwise, if it's not empty, we'll want to remove that class. Remove class input error. And we can copy this for all of our 5 fields. So we'll just go here and then copy it 4 more times. 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll change this one to last name. Last name. We'll change this one to email. Change this one to password. We'll change this one to password confirm. So that way, if we go back to our form and we just leave it empty and hit submit, you'll see all of our fields show up as errors. We know we need to fill them in. If we fill in this first name here and hit submit, it will take away that error because it's not valid, or because it's now valid. Same for all of this. We'll just leave that. Now this one's only empty. We do need to add a field or a conditional check if the passwords don't match. So we'll do if password.val not equal to password confirm.val, password add class input error, password add class, password confirm, sorry. Else we need to remove these classes if they do match. So we need to put this inside of the else for if the second password's not empty. That way it still shows up if both of them are empty. And then if I put in passwords that are equal, they'll still show up. So a little bit of logic change there. Everything else we're going to handle with PHP, the email validation, password validation. You could handle them with JavaScript. It's just nice to have JavaScript available to us before it hits the server. You could also show error messages here. You could have a div for errors and then have JavaScript write the errors to that div, or even create a div and insert it into the page. So for right now, all we want to do is submit this form. So if everything's valid, so password confirm, everything is valid right here. We will do jQuery, what's it form.off submit. This way we take off our submit event listener, and then we'll submit the form. All right, let's see if this works. We're going to refresh here. Last name. We got to give a different email address than earlier, and a good password. And submit. And it works. It went through the JavaScript validation. It signed up. I got the success message. Now I go here. It shows my new entry in the database. So yeah, this was quite a long video, I know, but there's a lot of information in here. We created a sign-up form for our website. We validated it with PHP. We validated it with JavaScript, and we inserted it into our database. This provides a nice starting point for future videos where we can, add email link validation. We can do login, logout, reset password, all kinds of stuff. So I hope this video was helpful for you. If it was, please consider liking my channel and subscribing. I'm trying to grow an audience, so please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.